Hi crafty friends, I'm back with another process video. This is for the wild hair kits and I am making this using the September sketch. The September sketch was pretty fun. It wasn't a shape that I've normally used before, but I'll insert a picture of it somewhere so you can see it. But what it was it was a rectangle with two squares attached to it. That's what the sketch was. And so I thought it'd be pretty fun to tackle it. So what I went and I did was I picked 3 papers that I thought would coordinate well. And one paper was from Flourish, one paper was from Pink Fresh Studio, and then the last paper I used was the Rose Gold Vellum from Maggie Holmes. And my thought process was to use that larger floral paper as the larger piece, and then I have the wood grain square and the vellum square as the smaller pieces. And it took everything out of me to gut into this vellum paper, but it made no sense to have the paper and not use it. And I am a hoarder, I admit it, and my mission this year is to use stuff up. There's no point in having all these beautiful things and just having them sit on your shelf indefinitely. And besides, taking a tiny 4x4 square out of that paper is not going to kill me. So now you see this is what the sketch looks like. It's this layout, and then you have your photo in the middle and some sort of embellishment in the middle. And so the photo I'm using here is a picture I had taken of my desk a few months ago. It's from January. We had gone on our honeymoon and a massive amount of mail accumulated while we were gone. And so I had this like super intense mail stack, and I was like, this would be a great picture. So that's what I'm scrapping today. Now what I went and I did was I did a lot of fussy cutting for this layout. I cut out some pieces from some Simple Stories paper. The typewriter and the butterfly were from the cut apart sheet from the Simple Stories I Am collection, and then that pink flower and those 2 little blue flowers were from a Simple Stories paper as well. And the reason I decided to cut out flowers is because the sketch, the die cut piece, was a flower, and I thought that'd be pretty fun to replicate, and I had those beautiful florals, so I used that. Now I decided I wanted to jazz up the background a little bit, and I had originally pulled out some distress oxides, and I was going to use bundled sage, worn lipstick, and broken china, and I was going to add some mess to the background. But after I also unsolicited scrapbooking pro tip, do not use bent up packaging for the packaging technique. It doesn't work. Also, you get packaging everywhere, and I don't know what was with my issue and my inability to throw that packaging away, but I grabbed a different piece of packaging. So after I put the broken china down on that piece of packaging, I realized that it was a little opaque for what I wanted. So I went back to my old faithful, which are my mini distress inks, and I keep them in that container that I got at Michael's. I'm not sure what it was designed for, but it fits those 1-inch cubes perfectly. And if you're not familiar with the difference between distress oxides and distress inks are translucent versus distress oxides, which are like solid. They don't really let water and light through. But with the distress inks, and I'm sure I'm explaining this wrong, but distress inks are distress inks are a dye ink, and distress oxides are pigment ink. And so one is just way more opaque than the other. And for the look, normally I don't mind the distress oxides, but for the look I was going for, I wanted something like softer. And I knew that the distress oxides would just be way too intense. So I didn't do any page prep, which I kind of regretted once I started this. But I am using the Basil cardstock. It's the either Avalanche or Marshmallow. They're both white cardstocks. I just don't remember which color this one is. But it's way tougher than like the average American Crafts cardstock. And so it can take a bit of a beating without buckling. It's still warped. I'm not going to lie. It warped a little bit. And I had to press it between like some really heavy books to kind of flatten it out. But it doesn't rip or like tear the way other cardstocks will. So what I'm doing here is doing the mixed media, putting the paper. See there, I put too much water and the paper started doing something weird. But here I'm doing the mixed media, and then I'm putting the papers back on and trying to see if I like it. And to be fair, I spent maybe 20 minutes doing this and covered it almost completely by the background papers, but it still sticks out a little bit behind the background papers, and that's what I really wanted. Now I'm concentrating that pink there because that's where I'm going to put the vellum. I'm going to put the vellum over the pink because I want it to look nice and diffuse and like airy, so that it sticks out under the vellum paper. And the sketch originally was designed to be dead center, and the more I put my mixed media down on the page, I realized that I wanted to push the sketch a little bit to the right, so it's not completely, see, I dropped my ink pad on the paper. It's not completely centered anymore. It's kind of pushed to the right. And so I added a little bit of that pink color in the upper left, just because the floral paper has pink in it and the pink was only on the bottom right. And I figured it'd be cool to kind of like balance it out. And so I just went back and forth with this. I'm adding some blue where there was only green, and I just kept going back and forth until I finished my background. Now, I really like this background. Before I even put anything on it, I just thought like this color combination was really pretty. And so I really like the background and how it worked out. So I hit it with my heat tool for a little bit, which also causes the paper to warp, but it was taking too long to dry and I'm impatient. Now, one thing that I have learned from my own adventures with mixed media and watching other people do mixed media is that tape and mixed media is not your friend. Tape will, I mean, it might hang on, but it won't work forever. And so if you have a messy background, your best bet is to use glue. So I've been using the I do this every video. I'm not sure if it's the quick dry or the tacky glue, but it's whatever the Scotch glue is that everybody uses. That's what's in my fine line bottle. And I filled it up before this video because it's been terrible the last few times. I've just been struggling to glue things down. So now I put down my main piece. I am committing, you guys. Now look, see, I did all that mixed media work in that corner and it is gone, completely gone. I know. Let's have a moment of silence for all that wasted effort. So now I'm gluing down the final piece, and like I said, we are committed. This is the way the layout is going. We cannot pick things back up and start again. But I don't know, I really like the way this looks. I like this arrangement of papers. Now here I mess around with like flipping the sketch and doing it horizontally versus doing it vertically. I mess around with, you know, having that large paper on the bottom, and I turn it around a few times before ultimately going back to the way the sketch is designed. This was a bit of a rough one for me at this part because this is not normally how I embellish, and also the arrangement of papers is not one that I would think of, which is why I like working with sketches. I think sketches challenge you and they push you to do things that you wouldn't normally do, and 80% of the time I like what happens. I'm not gonna lie and say I love it all the time, but 80% of the time I like what happens, and this time I really actually do like it. So now I'm trying to figure out what I want to do in terms of embellishing, and so I pulled out my Pink Fresh Studio stickers. I pulled out the clear stickers from the Maggie Holmes sticker pack. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And so what I first decided to do is I took one of those circle stickers, and it didn't say anything. It just had like a really fun floral design. And I put it on white paper, and then I attempt to fussy cut it out. And I also fussy cut some leaves. And my fussy cutting needs work. To all you crafty women and crafty men who can like fussy cut like super intricate images and make them like look really good, I take my hat off to you, because my fussy cutting is always janky. Like, part of the reason why I cut out the image of me cutting that out is because I kept having to cut the circle more and more narrow because my edges weren't even and it just looked a mess. And there was nothing I could do, and I started getting more and more frustrated, and I got it out, but in the close-ups you'll see that it's not perfect. It's but better done than perfect, I guess. So now I'm putting my photo on vellum. And then after I put my photo on vellum, I put it on white cardstock. And I always have scrap bits of white paper hanging around from like previous projects. So I just grabbed a bit of like scrap white paper that I tried to cut on my guillotine, but did not work. At some point I'm going to buy a larger guillotine because I love that paper. Don't get me wrong, this Fiskars trimmer is really good also. But I like the guillotine. I like the convenience of it, and I like the size of it. So one of these days I'm just going to buy a larger guillotine. Now I'm putting the photo on foam and working on building my layout from there. So what I ended up doing was gluing that typewriter to my picture, and then eventually I put the typewriter on foam also. I liked the way it looked raised up off the page. Now I'm creating the cluster behind the photo. There's that circle piece that I put on the sticker and then I cut out. And I put those blue flowers there and then like instantly cover them up. I do that a lot. Like I glue things down and then I'm just like, actually, I like this instead. And then I just cover them up. So I messed around with the idea of putting the typewriter behind the photo, but I really just liked the way it looked in front of the picture instead. And I put the butterfly behind the photo. So I'm like said, I'm cutting some foam down to back the typewriter. And then I'm just going to glue the typewriter directly to the picture and put that together. And I've learned this from watching other people scrapbook. It's a lot easier if you're making a photo cluster to glue everything together and then move it as one piece versus moving a bunch of individual pieces, because you kind of, almost never get it back the exact way you want it to. So now I'm gluing the whole thing down. I have my photo and my typewriter. I have my trusty T-square. Won't leave home without it because I can't put things down straight, like to save my life. And so that's where we are right now, and I'm really liking the way that looks. So I put the butterfly, look, even with me refilling my bottle, this thing hates me. I put the butterfly behind the typewriter, just so I have that pop of like corally pink. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with those gold foil leaves. And I pick them up, I put them down, I pick them up, I put them down. I eventually just commit and stick them kind of behind the butterfly. I didn't want the that gold foil circle to be the only sparkly element on the page. So that's probably the reason why I was like, this has to go down. Now I grabbed one of those dimensional stickers from the Pink Fresh Studio Pack, and this one just says, I love a good story, which I thought would be cool with the typewriter embellishment and the picture of all the mail. And I glue that down just in case. It had like a single foam sticker dot behind it, and I was just worried that that wasn't going to last. So I put a bit of glue behind it and stuck that down. And I think what I'm going to do next is work on my title. So I picked through my embellishments just to see. Oh, right, I found that other blue flower that I cut out. And since I covered up the blue flower that I put on the top of the photo, I figured I'd put this one over to the right just to have a little bit more blue. And now I'm going to work on the title. So I figured for my title, I would just go with something nice and easy. So I went with Happy Mail. And again, sticking anything down on mixed media does not work. And especially with chipboard, I find that chipboard on like the best of days isn't very sticky. So it's definitely not going to stick when you're gluing it to paper that has been like tortured. So I get my fine line bottle and I glued each letter down individually. And the sticker pack has lots of colored letters. So I tried to go with colors that matched my layout. So I didn't really go for the yellow letters or anything else. I went for like the blues and the pinks and the cream colors, as I felt like that matched my layout really well. Now I grabbed that clear sticker and it says, remember this, and my plan was to put it under my title, but I didn't really like it, and I already picked it up off the page, so I was like messing around with where to put it. I put it under the photo and I called it good. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, no, I'm looking for stuff. Oh yeah, I put a couple of stars, hearts scattered around the page. And now that's it for the page. So I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have lots of process videos in the works and lots of chatty videos. I have stills here and plenty more after the break. And then there'll be more videos for you to watch if you want to hang out with me further. As always, have a great day, crafty friends.